La Amazonía no tiene competencia en escala, oportunidad y complejidad. Produce el 16% del agua dulce que llega a los océanos y almacena entre 90 y 140 billones de toneladas métricas de carbono. Regula el clima y bombea humedad a la atmósfera que viaja en ríos voladores hasta el sur de Brasil, norte de Argentina, Uruguay y Paraguay. Resguarda al menos el 10% de la biodiversidad del planeta y es hogar de cerca de 350 grupos étnicos. De sus más de 40.000 especies de plantas, la Amazonía nos entrega el cacao, un cultivo de creciente demanda a nivel mundial, que puede convertirse en una solución de bioeconomía, cultivándolo con buenas prácticas. El cacao tiene el potencial de disminuir la deforestación, es una alternativa a los cultivos ilícitos y contribuye a la restauración productiva, generando ingresos a cerca de 158.000 familias de Perú, Brasil y Colombia. Es, en resumen, una importante herramienta de desarrollo inclusivo. Iniciativa Cacao de Origen Amazónico Sostenible. Una solución basada en la naturaleza.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar called Amazon Origin Cocoa Beyond Deforestation Free Potential. We will explore during this session the relationship between the Amazon cocoa with conservation and restoration of forests, especially when we speak about agroforestry systems, which are the best suited systems for the Amazon region, as a way to provide livelihoods, profitability for especially small producers in the Amazon region, more as part of the solution to deforestation and to the restoration of soils in the Amazon region than part of the problem of deforestation. In the Amazon region, we account for more than 158,000 of producers, families, especially small-sized producers. Although the South American production of cocoa is only less than 15% of the global production, cocoa as an origin crop is a very promissory and important crop for the region in order to stabilize social conditions and economic conditions that are required to reduce the pressure over the forest. Just to recap a little bit, it is important to mention the size of the Amazon biome of the Amazon region. We have more or less 843 million hectares in the Amazon region, with more than 628 million of this area covered still by forest, and more than 71 million hectares under natural ecosystems, with a population of around 35 million people in the whole Amazon region, and a deforestation that is even higher than 2 million hectares a year still nowadays. Almost 33% of this deforestation happens in the Brazilian Amazon, 10% in Bolivia, 8% more or less in Peru, and 6% in Colombia. And it's important to mention that most of this deforestation is due to cattle activity. So we see cocoa again as a very important solution to restore these areas that have been already deforested for cattle use, with a high restorative potential of biodiversity, of ecosystems, of water and soil retention, with a big potential also of capturing greenhouse gas emissions when we speak in agroforestry systems. So we are going to explore during these sessions all this potential and some examples of the cocoa production in Colombia, Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador that can illustrate us a little bit more about this huge potential that we see for around the cocoa Amazon origin. Thank you and welcome again. Okay, so to start this session, we will be approaching two crucial topics or addressing, which will be in two panels. One of them speaking about why the Amazon cocoa has ecological, social, and economical value. And the second one of how progress has been made to achieve sustainable cocoa. Let me then introduce Angélica Ford. She's the lead of the Cocoa Forest and Diversity Agreement of Peru from Solidaridad Network. Welcome, Andrea, and the microphone is yours.
Thanks, Javier. The objective of this first panel is to highlight how cocoa is an ecological solution for the Amazon conservation, inclusive of smallholder producers and commercially profitable. Let me introduce our panelists. Jose Mejia is the CEO of Amazonas Trading, a Peruvian exporter and a member of the Cocoa Forest and Diversity Agreement. Pedro Ronca is the manager of Cocoa Action Brazil, an initiative of World Cocoa Foundation to increase the productivity and quality of Brazilian cocoa. Marco Gicalpi, technical cocoa specialist in Pro Amazonia, a program to promote the deforestation-free production in Ecuador. Well, let's start with our panel. Jose, the company that you lead is one of the main cocoa exporters in Peru to the European Union, a market that is beginning to demand higher standards such as deforestation-free production. How are your company and other cocoa exporters from the Peruvian Amazon preparing to comply with environmental and social regulations?
Gracias a Tropical Forest por esta webinar que me han invitado a decir algunas palabras. Voy a presentar lo que está realizando mi empresa, Amazonas Trading, en el tema de sostenibilidad y cómo estamos preparándonos para exportar cacao libre de deforestación, ¿no? Nuestra empresa es una empresa que tiene 14 años de fundada, ¿no? Tiene operaciones en todo el país, en Perú. Manejamos alrededor de 10 centros de acopio en toda la selva peruana, una cadena productiva de 3.800 productores de cacao y 8 cooperativas. En los últimos años hemos exportado más de 85.000 toneladas de cacao. Vendemos granos de cacao a 20 países de todo el mundo, sobre todo a la Unión Europea. Nuestra producción, el 80% de nuestra producción va a la Unión Europea. Como pueden ver aquí, Perú, todo el cacao de Perú se siembra en la zona de la Amazonía y parte en la costa tropical de la zona norte del Perú, ¿no? Nosotros tenemos 10 centros de acopio en esta zona y oficinas centrales y una planta industrial en Lima, ¿no? Con respecto a lo que es la sostenibilidad, en Perú, nosotros, o nuestra empresa propiamente dicha, cuenta con la certificación Rainforest, que es la que da la certificación sostenible y la que, se podría decir, evalúa de que el cacao sea sembrado en zonas de libre deforestación, ¿no? Pero no solamente el programa Rainforest lo evalúa, sino los mismos programas sostenibles de los clientes evalúan esta condición, ¿no? Y también nuestro propio programa de sostenibilidad unido. O sea, si un cliente quiere trabajar bajo cacao sostenible, tiene estas 3 opciones, ¿no? Estar certificado por Rainforest, trabajar con los programas sostenibles de los clientes o tener su propio programa de sostenibilidad, ¿no? Es la forma en la cual nos estamos preparando desde un punto de vista más a detalle. Los productores, para que estén libres de deforestación, lo primero tienen que ser georreferenciados. Esto quiere decir que tienen que tener todas sus coordenadas GPS, dónde se ubican, en qué localidad, ¿no? Y esto es un proceso que tiene que ser obligatorio al 100% de los productores, ¿no? Básicamente es tener un punto GPS donde se pueda mencionar que está localizado el productor, ¿no? Después de este procedimiento, es necesario poligonar el fondo, ¿no? O sea, poligonar la finca. Esto es un conjunto de puntos que obliga a que toda la finca pueda, a través de estos puntos GPS, pueda así hacer subida a los ordenadores de evaluación de la certificadora, en este caso Rainforest, o de tu propio programa de sostenibilidad, donde se va a poder evaluar si hubo o no deforestación en los últimos años, ¿no? En este caso, por ejemplo, se puede ver de que hay una esquina de esta finca que ha podido ser deforestada en los últimos años, ¿no? Ahora, la evaluación, usualmente el análisis de la deforestación por satélite tiene una capacidad de analizar deforestación hasta hace 20 años atrás, ¿no? Desde el 2002. Sin embargo, para la certificación Rainforest en sí, solicitan de que el análisis se haga desde el año 2014, ¿no? En este caso no presenta ningún tipo de deforestación cercana. Si en caso hubiese, se presentaría un punto rojo o se señalaría una condición de peligro en la imagen, ¿no? Si bien es cierto, la certificación REFOR es una certificación que analiza desde el año 2014 hacia la fecha actual. Sin embargo, la Unión Europea está considerando hacerlo mandatorio en los próximos años, o sea, obligatorio a partir del año 2020, ¿no? Para todo lo que es cacao sostenible o cacao en general. Bueno, proviene de una finca con una buena calidad de fermentación. Nuestra empresa tiene centros de acopio, como ya lo había mencionado. Estos son los principales en San Martín, en Ucayali. De los centros de acopio donde recibimos el cacao, viene a nuestras planta industrial en Lima, ¿no? Donde nosotros tenemos una capacidad de almacenamiento de hasta 4.000 toneladas, ¿no? Y en nuestra planta industrial en Lima es envasado, secado, seleccionado y exportado a los diferentes destinos, ¿no? Y indudablemente tenemos productos locales también y que podemos ofrecer como chocolate, ¿no? Nix y otros, ¿no? En ese sentido, bueno, nuestra empresa se ha preparado, es importante que todos los productores y exportadores, ¿no? Se puedan preparar para estas nuevas regulaciones de deforestación, ¿no? Muchas gracias.
Thanks, Jose. That's very interesting. You are facing a very big challenge. Pedro, the supply chain of the Amazon Brazilian cocoa has good experiences of positive relation between forest and cocoa with excellent trade-off on productivity. In fact, one of these experiences will be presented later today by Joao Evangelista. To support this good relation between forest, cocoa crop, and social impact, Cocoa Action has developed a curricula of sustainable cocoa. What are the main principles of this verification framework, and how is supporting the strong traceability of Amazon Brazilian cocoa?
Well, thank you for the invitation for being here. It is a pleasure representing the Cocoa Action Initiative in Brazil that's part of the World Cocoa Foundation, and it started in Brazil in 2018. And we have been putting the sector together, public-private partnership, pre-competitive, to address the main challenges and to develop the cocoa sector in a sustainable way in Brazil. And yes, profit is key to guarantee the sustainability, and we have developed a study on economic viability that showed that to reach economic viability, growers need to have more than 1,000 kilos per hectare. And unfortunately, we do not reach this today. And we have an opportunity to increase Brazil's growers' productivity, and by that include increasing also their income with a great social impact. And using for that the agroforest system that is very suitable for smallholders that are the majority. So basically, we are pushing agroforest systems of cocoa in the Amazon as a driver of reforestation and as a great alternative for income of growers, especially the smallholders, as I said, that are the majority, and also because cocoa is native from the Amazon and in the agroforest systems brings all the benefits on biodiversity, on carbon sequestration, and also on income diversity for growers, but it needs to be followed always by good technical assistance and also technical support, because agroforest systems are not easy to manage and to handle, and to be profitable, they need to be followed by technical assistance. And to support all this process and movement, we have developed within the sector here in more than 1 year of discussion, our cocoa sustainability curriculum. That is basically a set of best practices, 32, coming from social, environmental, and economical side, that give us a baseline or a minimum set of practices to look for and to support growers to comply with, to reach a more sustainable production. And this set of practices, or this curriculum, is now being used also as a reference to the development of a traceability system in the region, in a pilot that we are running, called the Sustainable Corridor of Cocoa, starting in Pará State, inside the Amazon region. And we are developing this with our partnership, with our partner Systemic, and including also Cocoa Action members. And this pilot will exactly use the cocoa sustainability curriculum as the reference and the baseline to build this traceability system that is under development, with a landscape approach that aims to guarantee that cocoa being sourced from this region complies with the curriculum exactly, and mostly linked, of course, to no deforestation, and also looking for social impact, for example, on promoting decent working conditions and guaranteeing that there is no challenges with that. So basically, this is where we are now. We are very excited with the great momentum that cocoa is in Brazil, great interest and growing with a high potential, a lot to come still, a lot to go, but definitely great opportunities for growers and for the whole sector to benefit. Thank you for the opportunity for sharing this.
Thanks, Pedro. The experiences that you have, especially with the curricula, could be helpful in other cocoa producing countries. Ecuador is a major exporter of cocoa at global level, mainly from the Pacific coast, but the production from the Ecuadorian Amazon developed in recent years. What progress have you seen regarding sustainability production, and what positive cases can be taken as examples?
Ok, muchas gracias por la invitación y saludos a todas y todos. Podemos empezar mencionando que desde el año 2009 Ecuador tiene un camino en su preparación del mecanismo Red+ como uso en el país. En esta fase de implementación, el país ha adoptado un enfoque de paisaje para que sus actividades sumen esfuerzos entre los dos ministerios directamente relacionados: el Ministerio de Ambiente y Agua y Transición Ecológica, que se encarga de la conservación, restauración y manejo forestal principalmente, y el Ministerio de Agricultura y Ganadería, responsable de la producción, y en este caso de la certificación libre de deforestación. Estos dos ministerios lideran en conjunto nuestro programa, administrado por el Programa de las Naciones Unidas llamado ProAmazonía. En este contexto, los ministerios y la agencia responsable de velar por la calidad del agro, llamada Agrocalidad, con el apoyo de nuestro programa hemos desarrollado la propuesta de certificación para la producción sostenible y libre de deforestación, que primero establece varias definiciones y fusiona dos esquemas normativos ya existentes. Un agroproductivo, que está bajo la competencia del Ministerio de Agricultura, que se relaciona a la certificación de buenas prácticas agropecuarias. Y el ambiental, bajo la competencia del Ministerio del Ambiente, a través de un distintivo llamado Iniciativa Verde de Producción Libre de Deforestación. Con estos dos esquemas se genera esta certificación, Buenas Prácticas Agrícolas más Libre de Deforestación, que tiene una implementación tanto a nivel de unidad productiva como de carácter asociativo. Es importante destacar que lo que buscamos es fortalecer las certificaciones existentes y en las que el Estado ya tiene una experiencia. Nosotros como programa hemos apoyado esta acción. ¿De qué manera? Hemos desarrollado un esquema de pilotos para la producción libre de deforestación en los commodities principales en la Amazonía ecuatoriana, entre ellos el cacao, con organizaciones que ya realizan procesos de conservación de bosques. Como ustedes pueden ver en el slide, estos pilotos combinan la información de mapeo de fincas, que es generada con la participación de los socios de las organizaciones. Aquí hemos trabajado con los hijos de los socios, quienes manejan ágilmente la tecnología, y ellos son quienes recorren los linderos de las fincas tomando puntos GPS con la ayuda de un celular y un aplicativo móvil. Cuando se obtiene este polígono de la finca, nosotros lo que hacemos es un mapa que es cargado a las plataformas virtuales en donde se ubica ya en mapas satelitales. Esta información generada por el equipo de mapeo se transfiere a nuestro especialista en sistemas de información geográfica, quien sistematiza y valida la información y la compara con la información oficial a nivel país, en donde hemos tomado como base el año 2014. Estos datos de cada productor son integrados a una plataforma de trazabilidad con la que identificamos la información agroproductiva y ahora la de conservación de bosques. ¿Cómo? Pues utilizamos un código QR para la formación de estos lotes de exportación, en este caso de cacao. ¿Qué resultados hemos obtenido? Bueno, en el 2021, en septiembre, realizamos la primera exportación de un lote de 3.8 toneladas de cacao de una asociación de la Amazonía Sur ecuatoriana. Este cacao fue exportado a una empresa belga y para este año se va a exportar 7 toneladas adicionales. Este acuerdo con esta empresa nos permitió que los socios de este grupo de productores participen en la Feria Chocoa que se realizó en los Países Bajos en el mes de abril, en donde ellos pudieron conocer de primera mano qué pasa después de la exportación de su grano, las principales ventajas competitivas que tiene el país y los requisitos en calidad. De esta misma forma, hemos desarrollado un piloto para la producción también de café libre de deforestación de 14 toneladas a una empresa italiana. Y esperamos seguir desarrollando estos para los demás commodities con los que trabajamos. Todos estos esfuerzos esperamos que sirvan para que Ecuador se posicione como un país pionero en la producción sostenible y libre de deforestación. Espero que esto haya contestado la pregunta y estoy atento a los siguientes pasos.
Yes, Marco, you answered the question. And what an interesting progress of Ecuadorian sustainable production. Thanks also to the rest of our panelists. To wrap up on why Amazon cocoa has ecological, social, and economic value, I would like to highlight these 3 main ideas. 1, because companies and producers are committed to sustainability. 2, there are clear verification frameworks. And 3, there is an articulation between companies and producers to guarantee a sustainable supply chain. Now, I would like to introduce Wendy Arenas. She is the executive director of Alisos Foundation in Colombia. Wendy, would you please continue with panel 2 about what advances have been made in Amazon cocoa toward a bioeconomic solution?
Good morning to all again, to this session. It's a pleasure for me to be leading this session where we will be speaking about positive cases and advancements on the construction on bioeconomy as a solution for the Amazon region. This is being discussed and developed in the frame of the Amazon Origin Sustainable Cocoa Platform. It is a pleasure for me to introduce our panelists. João Evangelista is a Brazilian producer of the state of Pará. João entered the 2021 edition of the Cocoa Excellence Competition and ranked among the world's best 15 bean samples. His cocoa, grown in agroforestry systems, in addition to his optimal quality, has contributed in restoring the Amazon region in the state of Pará, Brazil.
Essa parte econômica aí é porque a gente vende o cacau num preço melhor, entendeu? E com isso, os chocolatiers que eles fazem chocolate com as amêndoas da gente, eles pagam um precinho melhor. Ou seja, nesse lado aí, a parte econômica vem por essa parte, porque é mais bem remunerado nesse sentido. Aí a parte do poder público, ele deve ver esse lado mais em assistência, né? Em disponibilizar financiamento para que a permanência dos produtores continue, né, na zona rural, nas roças, né, que seja, como eu costumo falar, e veem mais esse lado das empresas privadas que colocam, né, que dão assistência técnica, que faz essa parte, né, como que ajudam a gente na zona rural e permanecer onde que a gente fica. E quando se trata de expandir em outras regiões, é que o povo tenha aquelas mesma posição que a gente tem, que a gente leva esse trabalho, né, a sério. Ou seja, costumo falar assim, só depende de cada um para a gente crescer e levar o problema da gente à frente, né?
Daniel Arancibia is Latin American Director of ProForest Nonprofit Group, which supports companies, governments, and civil society and other organizations to work towards responsible production in the agricultural sector.
Thank you, Wendy, for the question. I think what is important to understand, I think comes from the first panel, is that there are two trends that are very important for cocoa in the region. One is that the countries are trying to set up and differentiate their cocoa production from the world cocoa production. And two is that the markets are also enacting legislation for due diligence, and that due diligence deals with deforestation and with human rights. These two trends are coming very strong and will shape how cocoa can prove its differentiation from regular cocoa around the world. And for that, transparency, accountability, and data are key. Without those three issues, it's very difficult for the sector to differentiate and rise above the common cocoa that it's in the market. So first, for transparency, the most important question to answer is where the cocoa comes from. And that's what it's called the traceability to production site or traceability to plantation. So we need to know where the cocoa is coming on the ground, where it's cultivated on the ground, how it's cultivated, and what are the risks associated to that production. For that, we need to go back to the root. We need to go back from the market all the way down to the area in the Amazon where it's grown and try to identify if it complies with all the requirements that either the governments, the sector, international standards, or the international markets are requiring for that cocoa production. And for transparency, the most important piece is the traceability to production. Traceability is something that for a long time it was considered to be difficult, but now we have the technology that it's open source for everybody to do that. So there are two issues for transparency, is two bottlenecks for getting transparency throughout the supply chain. One is traceability and the technology, but the political issues surrounding transparency. And I would say that for the technology, we have the technology. Everybody is now using intermediate technology. Now you can enable your cell phones, your tablets. You don't need complicated equipment or sophisticated equipment to trace back to a coordinate of where your farm is. And there are many models. The important thing for those models to work in a given cocoa smallholder group is that you have people within the group manager or within the cooperative that are willing to pass the voice and do the capacity building for all the suppliers. And the other is if the cocoa producer associations are willing to share that information, which for many years it was considered like a trade secret. And now people are overcoming that barrier and ensuring that now it's an issue of transparency and that it's a requirement. If you want to stay in some markets, you need to share that information. For example, and in this case, a very specific case of how we are supporting that agenda is the case of Acopagro. It's a cocoa producer group in Juanjuy, in the San Martin region, in the Peruvian Amazon. And for example, they have 2,000 growers, and those 2,000 growers feed their production into a main warehouse, and then it's exported to Europe and the US. They receive a lot of different requests from each single client of what they wanted to see to make sure that the cocoa was legal, was formal, and was sustainable. So for example, with one of the first questions that we had to do is how to make a tool that by gathering information, they will answer those questions at once. And for example, we built a benchmarking with the cocoa company and the producers so that all the requirements will be in one self-assessment, that everybody could answer the self-assessment. And using the self-assessment, we will set up a baseline. And with the traceability information, we can automate process of analysis so that we can complement the self-assessment together with the satellite-based assessments, and therefore make a report on the status of cocoa production from those groups. Now, that producer group, Acopagro, they have a dashboards that all their technical team can access, and they can analyze producer by producer where they are based on that baseline, and they can report to their clients how their producing base, which is all the 2,000 smallholders, are doing against, for example, deforestation, where they are, which year the cocoa was put on the ground, and how from that moment to now, there has been no deforestation alerts on those farms, so that they can, the minimum requirement of deforestation free can be not only reported, but also supported by information that is openly available to anybody. So I think that's how transparency can work and using the right technology. Thank you, Wendy.
Adalys Rosé is country manager for Peru. Solidaridad is an international civil society organization with experience in developing solutions to sustainable supply chains.
Thank you, Wendy, for your question, and good morning to everyone. Well, one very important experience about economic incentives to small producers is Acon platform. This is a platform that was launched by Rabobank in 2021, and that is allowing small producers to sell carbon credits to the voluntary market. This is a critical milestone because small producers are recognized for a model of production that contributes to climate change reduction and forest protection. Solidaridad, as a local partner, is supporting these producers to sell their carbon credits through Acon platform, as long as they can demonstrate that their production is under agroforestry system and is free of deforestation. So far, at the beginning of this year, we reached more than 1,000 producers that were able to sell their carbon credits, removing more than 10,000 tons of CO2. And in average, each producer has received around 150 euros. And they will be able to receive them for several years, more than 20 years. So it's a very important economic incentive that also helps to diversify their income when they protect the forest. With Rabobank, we are planning to reach more than 15,000 producers between coffee and cacao in the Peruvian jungle in the coming 5 years. So we will keep contributing to the reduction of climate change. We will keep contributing to develop business models of agriculture, like it's a type of regenerative agriculture, and we will contribute to these producers to improve their quality of life. Because this model, the business model that we promote, are those that first they need to, and they are going to produce more where they are without moving anywhere else. And they will also send for a better price, because they are going to have a better product to sell it for a better price in the international market. And apart from that, like a better income from higher productivity and quality, they are going to receive this 150 or even more, because depends how much carbon is stored in their agroforestry systems. They are going to have this additional economic income, an incentive to the protection of the forest, an incentive to be better adapt as well to climate change. You know? So at the end, through these incentives, producers are willing to change their production models, not only because they have better productivity and quality, as I was saying before, but also because they can better adapt to climate change and contribute to emissions reductions. And the best of everything for me is to say that they are becoming our climate heroes. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias a nuestros panelistas. Thank you so much to our panelists. We have a wonderful session here and many reflections upon how to scale up a sustainable cocoa for the Amazon region. Certainly, we know that if we want to have a bioeconomy on sustainable cocoa and sustainable cocoa in agroforestry systems, we need to go further and scale up also transparency and traceability systems. Assure that producers can enable those systems and be part of their business model. We've also learned that it's possible to have a good quality cocoa in agroforestry, as Joao has shared with us. But we also know, and we've learned, the need for incentives, economic and other incentives, to guarantee that producers can move and move from a smaller scale to a larger scale of cocoa production in agroforestry systems. These challenges are definitely key in order to guarantee the sustainability of our Amazon region and keep working together as we have been done in the past with all producers and all key actors of the value chains of Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and recently joined Ecuador. So for me, it's a pleasure to give now the word to Daniel Coronel, who will be sharing the general conclusions of this panel.
As conclusion of this webinar, I would like to highlight some ideas transmitted by our excellent speakers. First, the members of the network of the Amazon Origin Sustainable Cocoa believe that cocoa is not only a value chain that must include deforestation-free in its production model, but it can go beyond. For example, promoting restoration of the Amazon, promote inclusion of the smallholder producer, and generating competitiveness and economic growth in their production areas. Our organization can share more information about cases, about business models, investment opportunities of these examples if it's needed. Also, we can point to several cases of companies, cooperatives, producer associations that are committed to sustainability, both individually, but also collectively in the multi-stakeholder agreements, such as Cocoa Forest and Diversity in Peru, and Cocoa Forest and Peace in Colombia, and related initiatives in Ecuador and Brazil. For example, there are also a verification tool named Cocoa Sustainability Curriculum in Brazil, and also in Ecuador, the deforestation-free certification. The Amazon cocoa has sustainable production models such as agroforestry and sustainability intensification that can be replicated For example, with the experience of Joao Evangelista from Pará, from Brazil. In addition, there are monitoring and traceability technologies that must be adopted quickly. In addition, there are good cases of incentive for producers with the aim to receive a direct benefit of focusing on production free of deforestation, but also as a bioeconomy solution. It's clear that we need more efforts and resources to accomplish with the bioeconomy challenge. For example, to design the verification tools, to promote the traceability and increase the set of incentives to smallholder producers, and to interchange information in our countries. For this reason, we make a call for action to the companies, to the cooperatives, the civil society organization, to the international cooperation to join the platform of the Amazon Origin Sustainable Cocoa and support the processes in Brazil, in Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru. TFA, Alisos, Solidaridad, Cocoa Action, Proforest, and Pro Amazonia, thank for your participation and have an excellent day. Thank you so much.
Cerca de 158.000 familias de Perú, Brasil y Colombia producen cacao de origen amazónico. En un mundo que consume 4.8 millones de toneladas anuales de cacao, las oportunidades son ilimitadas, especialmente en los mercados europeos que importan 2.4 millones de toneladas cada año y que buscan específicamente lo que ofrece la Amazonía: un cacao de producción sostenible que proteja la selva de la deforestación y que sea socialmente inclusivo. Cacao de origen amazónico es una iniciativa con todas las posibilidades para satisfacer la demanda de un mercado exclusivo en busca de sabor y aroma. La garantía de calidad la ofrece el hecho de ser una planta nativa amazónica, producida por familias indígenas y campesinas, con una trazabilidad confiable en sistemas agroforestales ambientalmente amigables y libre de deforestación. Iniciativa Cacao de origen amazónico sostenible. Una solución basada en la naturaleza.